Okay. Well. And it looks like it's streaming. Alright. So, can you folks... I'm just going to turn off the screen here so I'm not tempted by the data, or the looking at my own picture. Actually, I gotta look to see. Make sure the health is good. Hey, can you guys see me? Hello? Hello? Analytics. That's all I really want to see. The audio is a little low, you say. Alright, let me get on that. Do-do-do-do-do-do. How do I do you? We'll mute this. And I'll just talk a little bit closer to the microphone, maybe. Hey, hey, can you guys... How do I sound? Am I still quiet? Am I still quiet? Ah! Okay, The video is incredibly choppy. Lovely. Just, get some... Video's better, audio's a little bit better. Alright, let me just get me some... Let's see if this helps. Oh, this is sound. No, this is what I wanted to look at. Device properties. Hello, friends. Levels. Levels. That's it. Okay. Get myself a little bit of a boost. Audio. Alright, I guess this is about as good as I can do. The hair is great. Oh boy. Yeah, I need a haircut tomorrow. Pretty bad. Alright. No. Okay. Sorry for all of the delays and stuff. But, yeah, I am kind of MacGyvering myself a situation right now. And I'll tell you guys about it in just a second. Alright, hello. Welcome to New Year's Day. Welcome to 2019 and everything, everybody. So, long story short, I'm on my wife's desktop right now. My own desktop has gone to the great beyond. It is no longer with us. It's passed away. So I'm currently putting together something, but unfortunately, the whole thing with this computer is that, unlike my other computer, this one runs off Wi-Fi. So, the video is going to be a bit choppy. That's going to be how it goes. I'm going to try it, yeah, so good news about the computer, though, is that I have, with the wonders of Boxing Day sales, I've purchased all of the parts needed to start a new, very nice desktop. I just have one more part I have to go to the UPS people tomorrow to go get, and then I'm going to assemble it on Sunday, and you guys will have I'll have a nice, like, desktop for editing videos. It'll be way better than the one I had, so that's where I'm at. So this is sort of a low-tech stream. And, yeah, it's been quite a month. We could probably get into it, but all sorts of stuff has happened, and this is why things have been so chaotic. My computer died shortly before I had to leave to, you know, go away for the holidays. On a short enough order that it made sense to wait till Boxing Day to buy all the parts I needed for my computer. Ended up saving me about $100, so that's good. And also, on top of that, my my wonderful, darling nephew, who's 21 months old, brought home the norovirus from daycare. And so over the Christmas holidays, everybody in the family got super, super sick, including myself, which meant that there wasn't really a lot of progress on Step Back scripts to be had. And then on top of that, on December 27th, my grandmother passed away. And that means that I'm not going to be able to do a quick step this week or be able to build my PC this week because we are going to be going on a surprise last-minute 3-day vacation to rural Saskatchewan in January. So that's going to be my next week. And that's like sort of a thing that's on my horizon. So that's where I'm at. That's where life is right this second. And that's why I'm going to Saskatchewan. That's why, Michael Kirshner, you're asking if I'm still in Saskatchewan. The answer is I haven't left yet. We leave in the wee hours of the morning on Thursday. So, yeah, so like that is the whole story about how my month has been. How have you guys been? I don't think I've done a stream in a few weeks now because it's been almost a month since I streamed. Wi-Fi signal inferior to smoke signal. Exactly. Yeah, norovirus is messy. It was not a fun Christmas holidays for that reason. Although, we still managed to do the fan meetup. The fan meetup happened before I got sick, which was nice. So I got to see Peter Coffin. I got to see Matt Mitrovich, the alternate historian. And got to see a bunch of my friends. Got a couple people who came out to be fans for the fan meetup. It was a really good time. We ended up having being in this really, really cool bar that I would definitely go back to. And we're definitely going to make it a weekly thing. Emperor Alexander, hey Tristan, why haven't you been uploading recently? Well, Emperor Alexander, I was in America for the last couple weeks. And on top of that, my PC died. So, like, those two things have been holding me up for the most part. So, Alex, stay tuned. I'm going to try to get a quick step out for the 10th. That's going to be the next Step Back main series video that I have planned. And then I am going to be hard at work on the next main Step Back video, which I already know what it's going to be. And I'm hammering away at the research right now, so I gotcha. Trust me, I'm driving myself insane trying to, because I can't make any videos right now, and I'm losing my mind. So, you wearing a Bernie shirt? I am wearing a Bernie shirt. I bought this during the primaries, and I still got it. Government shutdown means that your sister can't get her meds, which means that she's randomly going... Oh, geez, that sucks. That is very unfortunate. I'm sorry, Ron. Which stream should I watch? One or the Maria the Witches stream? That is up to you. You follow your bliss. Okay. So, how was your New Year's? Asks Mad Blender. Hello, Mad Blender. How are you? It was pretty good. After all of this, since, we got back from the United States on Sunday, and we're flying out again on Thursday, it was good to have a New Year's that was rather chill. I met up with one of my old friends who was in town. We went to a bar that was not horribly packed. And we just kind of hung out and talked about memes and movies and stuff until the new year came in. We drank some wine and then I went home. It was great. I thought I had a great day. Yeah. It's been quite a while, Step Back. How's your day so far? Today has been pretty relaxing. New Year's Day, I did not get super duper drunk like I normally do on New Year's Eve, so I woke up pretty normal, and then I just kind of did random things at like the house, stuff around the house that I need to get done because I'm traveling again soon. So that's like been my my life. Just kind of have a couple days of downtime before we got to leave again, and then on Sunday I'm building a PC, and I'll try to see if I can stream that. I don't know how I'll do that, but I will think of something. Probably use this setup again, to be honest. Okay, so let's see. You guys have some questions for me. I've got some stuff we can talk about. I've got the top, as I do one of these every New Year's. This is the 3rd year in a row I've done these. It also means it's been 3 years since I started streaming. I guess 2 years since I started streaming, officially. Because I did, in 2016, or at the beginning of 2016, I did beginning of 2017, I did a stream where I did like a recap of 2016. And I kind of talk about the top 10 most popular videos of the year, talk about how the channel's been in the previous year, answer some questions from you folks, and then see what we can be excited about in the future. That's kind of like how, it's kind of the rough outline of what I plan on doing today. Okay, let's see. How is that? Is this does the shutdown actually shut down like Medicaid or something? Is that why you guys are talking about not being able to get medication? I'm not exactly sure. Anyways. Onwards and upwards. So, did anybody get into a heated discussion with their family over Christmas? I did not. My in-laws are so politically different from me that when I go there, I am basically just a person that takes up space. I don't have any unique features. I do not say things. I do not have opinions on anything. I'm just matter. I'm just matter in a chair. And honestly, if I want to keep the peace with the in-laws, that's just how it's going to have to be basically forever. So, you know, that's me at the moment. I'm sure many of you can sympathize with that. But, oh yeah, we can also talk about stuff that's going to happen in 2019. Someone's kind of hinting at there. Oh gosh. You guys expect so much of me. Let's see. Your mom called you a filthy communist. Well, Nicholas, that's a sad thing to be called. You should just, like, embrace it and be like, yup. Alright, so, Gersis wants to know if poutine is the best hangover food. I agree that it is. Although, I was reading an article that was about a book about this guy who spent, like, 10 years going around the world trying to find the perfect hangover cure, and then wrote a book about it. And one of the things that he actually suggested was a handful of things, and one is that if you notice, a lot of the hangover cures involve eggs, and that there might be something in eggs that helps with the it's like when you have a hangover, your body is basically poisoned, and it is how your liver processes alcohol is it releases these nasty chemicals into your blood that are safe byproducts of the alcohol, but they make you feel like crap. And really, eating anything that sort of deals with those chemicals is what's going to make you at least try to feel better. And I've heard that, like, eggs have something in them that is good for that. And that's why if you look around the world, a lot of, like, leftover, like a lot of like old remedies are like a lot of those remedies have eggs, and that's why. But also your body is like your body is dehydrated, it's low on electrolytes, and it's usually I don't know. I mean, there's a whole thing about greasy food, and I think that patina is a great hangover food in that it's good to eat while you're drunk to kind of keep you from getting sick. Maybe not like a hangover, but breakfast patin, which is greasy and fries and has eggs on it and stuff like that, that could probably be a pretty good hangover remedy. But honestly, for a lot of hangover cures, eat some eggs, drink some Gatorade, and go to bed. That's really and some Advil. A lot of like the headache and the pain and stuff like that is because your body's getting a lot of inflammation. So taking some Advil will also help. All right. But patin is great. Patin is just one of those foods like that makes sense when you're drunk, in a way that it doesn't when you're sober. Maximilian Gale, will you ever make a video about why people become reactionary? I kind of did that. What is fascism really is sort of about those things, but I could definitely see that being a thing that I cover about why people become reactionary. There's also a little bit of that in why is there no American left-wing party? But if I can find a pen on my wife's desk that's not a Sharpie, I will definitely write it down. Here we go. So, why do people become reactionaries? That's actually a pretty good, it's a good video idea. Eggs scrambled in Gatorade. Oh, geez, that sounds grotesque. It's also 420. I just wanted to point that out to people. Oh, it's 421. Sorry. We missed it. We missed it, everybody. We missed it. Opinion of the European Union. I think the European Union has problems, but is overall a good thing. At least it's better that it exists than it doesn't exist. To facilitate international cooperation, open borders, and a common currency in Europe makes things a lot better for Europeans, and the joint projects, especially in the sciences, have done some pretty good stuff for the Europeans. I don't like that it is very neoliberal, that it is run with a German idea of banking that is very afraid of inflation, and so very conservative and pro-austerity. So those things I really don't like. But given the alternative, the European Union, like Europe without a European Union, we've seen what that's like. And basically it was endless war and conflict. So I'll go with the, I'll take the European Union over the not having it. Especially because it's the project that everybody's working on. And so to not be part of it would be, you'd be missing out on basically like the big thing right now. Okay. Excited for the U.S. primaries and the federal election. Yeah, so that's a thing coming up in 2019 is that we've got so much stuff. We've got, in Canada, in October, we're going to have the 2019 election where Justin Trudeau is up for re-election. We've got 2 new party leaders that are... So, like, from 2015 to 2019, Justin Trudeau has gone from being the oldest of the major party leaders to the youngest, or sorry, from the youngest to the oldest, and he's also really, really burned a lot of bridges in his own following. So he's lost a lot of his goodwill, and is going into an election. Now, the best thing that he has is that the other two parties have sort of really messed up as far as, like, you know, being have really messed up in the paying attention department. So they've done, like, the NDP has gone through some weirdness, and the Conservatives have a leader that nobody knows. So that's where we're at. We'll see how that election, because, like, if anything, like, this time last year, Patrick Brown, the leader of the Progressive Conservatives, got brought down with accusations of sexual allegation or sexual harassment, and they had to do a new leadership race in, like, the 6 months before the Ontario election, and then Doug Ford was premier. So, like, a lot can happen in an election period. So who knows what's going to come out of the 2019 election? Who knows? We'll see. We'll see where it goes. The Canadian election is going to be a whole... It's going to be a whole thing. And also, the 2015 election with Justin Trudeau and such was also was Canada's was still before, like, Nazis took over everything, and so this is going to be our first election where there's going to be Nazis, like, in the zeitgeist, you know. So that's a thing. Okay. Next question. Political predictions of what will happen in 2019, particularly in the Anglosphere, Europe, East Asia, and Southeast Asia. I can't say most about what's going to happen in East Asia and Southeast Asia. I'm not super well versed in what's going on there at the moment. As far as the Anglosphere, like, Canada's got an election coming up where I think that you're going to start seeing all of the dumbness, right-wing reactionary stuff finally coming to the surface. You've got that new fascist political party led by Maxime Bernier that's going to... We'll see how that does stuff. I don't really know. The two options that'll come out of that with two right-wing parties in in Canadian politics was that either it's going to split the Conservative vote enough because Maxime Bernier will be able to, like, rise enough, like, you know, hooting hog racists to vote for him, that, like... other conservatives, the Conservatives will just fall apart, and then you'll probably end up with some weird liberal supermajority. Or my most likely prediction is that the People's Party has... Oh, no. Well, this chair has no armrest now. So as the People's Party... the split right-wing vote will probably result in there being... I don't think that the People's Party is actually going to go anywhere. I don't think it's got the juice to really take off. Really, in order to take off, like, say, like the Reform Party did in the 90s, it would need to really have the Conservatives take a huge dive, and that doesn't seem likely to happen at the moment, especially because Andrew Scheer, who's the leader of the Conservatives, is getting to the point when he wants to... He's open to becoming more racist in order to keep the votes. So that's, like, a thing that we're gonna keep. That looks like it's gonna keep happening. So that's where the conservative world is at. Liberal Party, you know that Justin Trudeau is still getting pretty unpopular. He's done almost nothing that he campaigned on. In fact, went back on several of them and did the exact opposite. He's lost pretty much all left-wing support and now sort of lives on this, where the Liberal Party always stands, which is everybody's second choice and usually voted for out of fear of a conservative government. And so that's probably where Justin's going to exist. Now, NDP land is a little bit weird. NDP is our left-wing party. With its new leader, Jagmeet Singh, he's pretty cool. He's pretty on board with stuff. He's because of the sort of racism in Quebec, a lot of the Quebecois NDP have turned on Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, and that's worrisome because Quebec is sort of one of the, places where the NDP pick up a lot of their seats, and so Jagmeet Singh is dealing with a lot of dissent in his own party, and the New Democrats look like they're in kind of disarray, so I don't expect any miracles from them unless, something weird happens. No one expected any miracles from Angio Horvath in the Ontario election, and then now they're official opposition, so, things can happen. As far as, that's where things are at the moment. I think that people are mostly predicting that Justin Trudeau will probably hang on to power, but it'll probably be either it'll be a smaller majority government or it'll be a minority government, in which case we might have a phase where, like, when I was, 18, where we were having elections about every year and a half. That would be fun, but that's sort of where we are at the moment. So that's Canada. In the United States, the 2020 election is going to get started. It's going to get started a lot earlier than it did in the past. You can already see that. You can already see that in America. Elizabeth Warren just announced that she's going to run for, or she's going to open an exploratory committee to run for president, which is like when they put together a group of people who look to see if it's feasible, like if there is a pathway for her to win the primaries and then win the presidency. Part of that basically is talking to Bernie Sanders and making sure that he doesn't run. If Bernie Sanders agrees to not run, then Elizabeth Warren will definitely run, and vice versa. So between the two of them, because they're fairly close, one of them is going to decide to run and the other one's not going to. They're pretty cordial like that. So we'll see where that goes. I'd be interested in finding out what, like the first, so like we haven't gotten any official announcements yet, I don't think. But the Democrats are doing 12 debates this time because they know it's going to be a way bigger field, and Hillary Clinton no longer has the party under tight control. So now they're going to make it more democratic because Clinton was always trying to make it less democratic so that she could just railroad the nomination for herself, and that's why everything was so sketchy last time. But that's been blown wide open. There's no superdelegates anymore. There's way more debates going on. So a lot of the problems that came up that kind of stymied Bernie Sanders in the last one have been addressed somewhat. And the first debate starts in July, which means that you're going to see the Democrats who are going to declare all start to declare in springtime, probably May, June, and before then you're even going to see people who are going to run for president sort of hinting at it. So it's a thing that that's a thing that would go for. That's sort of where Democrat world is at. The Democrats are, I think that a lot of the centrists are going to be really depressed that things are changing. They're going to be mad that the system is so chaotic and that we're fighting and there's internal dissent and everything is bad. What's it called? The primaries are not a time where we're supposed to disagree. Also, the election's not a time we're supposed to disagree. And also, after the election's not a time we're supposed to disagree. And this is sort of their narrative they always push, is that there is never a time to disagree with the party line because the stakes are too high. And so but the primaries are literally the time when the Democrats are going to figure out what they're going to stand for in the future. And the machinery of the party is way less able to control the outcome like they did before, which makes me think that the Democrats are going to try, they have very few tools to control a runaway popular candidate, which is the thing. Like it's much more like how the Republican primary system works, which the Republicans had no real tools to control Trump, and then he ended up winning. So if there's a mass movement behind one candidate, they could very much come and sweep the whole thing, which wouldn't have happened in Democrat world before, because the superdelegate system and the control on debates usually results in whoever the Democrats want to win just win. But this is going to be like, so the Democrats' primary is going to be like the Republican one was last time. It's going to be a huge field. It's going to be all the different factions of the party having a knife fight to find out who's going to, it's going to be a fight for the soul of the party. And I think that out of all of the debates and all of the viciousness that's going to come out of that, it's going to be the most healthy thing for the Democrats that'll ever happen to them, because it is the drop-down fight that they needed, where they are going to decide what is the Democratic Party going to be. Is it going to be a party that, like if it's Joe Biden, is it going to be, we're going to keep centrist, we're going to keep doing right-wing things, we're going to alienate our base, we're going to make sure we keep losing elections for the foreseeable future? Or is it going to be, we're going to win some elections but still lose them in the long term, like with a Cory Booker or like a Beto O'Rourke, like we're going to say nice things but not do any nice things, and just kind of bleh, and try to see if they can get that Obama energy again, which I have high doubts about that having success, because Obama's empty rhetoric is sort of why Trump got elected in the first place. So that I don't have high hopes about, but that's going to be a faction of the fight. Kamala Harris has got all of the Clinton money backed up behind her, and she's just going to be like a representation for like the old baby boomer running Democrats, which is it'll be, I don't know how she's going to establish herself, really. That's something I'm curious about. And then you're going to have the progressive candidate, and in my opinion, or in my guess is that Sanders and Warren both know that if they both tried to run, it would counter both of their aims. And they care about issues rather than like their personal brand. So I imagine that one of them will run and the other one will not. Whoever that is probably based on their own internal metrics. So if Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders look at the data and see that it's more likely that one of them will win the primaries than the other, and in my mind I think that's Elizabeth Warren, but I don't have the data in front of me, so I can't vouch for that, then I think that one of them will run and the other one will back them up. And this time without the Clinton like list, where like they're known for having a list of enemies that they like destroy if anybody opposes them. Without that intimidation factor, I think you're going to have a lot more Democrats who will line up to support a progressive candidate. And that means that if Sanders does run and Elizabeth Warren doesn't, then I think that Warren will come out more in support of Bernie Sanders than in 2015, 2016, because Elizabeth Warren was afraid of the Clintons basically destroying her entire political career for backing the wrong horse. Because the Clintons do that. They have done that in the past. And they were definitely going to do it again. I don't know if you noticed, but Democrat land was very quiet during the primaries. So that's like the thing that's going to happen over. That's going to be Democrats in 2019. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be vicious. Vox is going to write a lot of articles about why it's bad that anybody disagrees on anything. But honestly, it's going to be the fight that, one, there's no avoiding, and two, just needs to happen for like the future of the party. Like there's no way to get around it. The Overton window got blown open during the primaries last time, and then everyone shut down the discussion because we were in presidential election time, and now is the time to bring that discussion back up and figure out what is it going to be. I'm repeating myself, so I should move on. Republican land for the election will be curious to watch. There are some Republicans like what's his name? What the hell is the guy who ate a bunch of food? Do you remember his name?
Oh,
the Ohio guy. Anyways, he's made some he's the governor of Ohio or something. He's made
Kasich.
John Kasich. Yeah, that's it. He's made some thoughts that he might run against Trump in a primary challenge. Primary challenges in American history are typically unsuccessful and never actually end up with anything. But it will be interesting to see what what comes out of that. Because like I could see in Republican world, I could see a primary. Honestly, the way that Republicans work, they are so acquiescent to power that I don't see them actually, entertaining a John Kasich run. And also the machinery of the Republican election party and the Donald Trump re-election group have already merged, which usually happens after the RNC, but it's already happened, which means that like it's going to be really hard for a Republican to launch a successful primary campaign, and it's already an uphill fight. So I actually don't see a challenger to Donald Trump coming through the Republican primary process. That's sort of like a pipe dream that like the crooked media people are probably pushing, but like it's not a real thing that has a chance of happening. And also, history has shown that the Republican base really likes Donald Trump and really likes Donald Trump stuff. And the whole idea of the never Trump conservative Republican is a canard. It's not real. There's like 6 Republicans that don't like Trump, and they all have columns. So like there's this desperate search to find this principled conservative that doesn't like Trump, but there aren't any. The base is entirely lined up behind Trump because they've been spending years race baiting and stoking fear to their base in order to get their base. And so Trump is the living embodiment of what they want. So I really don't see any chance of the Republicans coming out of the Republicans coming out with a new leader. I think they're going to be stuck. The only thing that could stop it is if like something real funky happens with like the Russia investigation and Trump is like literally in prison or something like that, which I have my doubts will happen. I don't think that they're ever gonna. I don't think that the Russia investigation's ever gonna get that far. And there will never be an impeachment because the Republicans know that impeaching their own president would be a disaster for their brand, to say the least. So they're stuck with Trump whether they like him or not. And I could see that I could see that being their downfall because Trump's getting pretty unpopular these days, and it's not going to be like 2016. People are going to have way more energy going into this. All right. So that's what I see coming in 2019. It'll be interesting to see anyway. There's a whole lot that's going to go down. But I realize that I've been talking about this question for almost 30 minutes, so let's move on to something else. All right, thoughts on Extinction Rebellion, Earthstrike, and the idea of dual power. I don't know anything about dual power, but the Earthstrike is happening in a couple weeks or something, right? That should be exciting. If there's an Earthstrike in Toronto, I'll probably go to it. it's an interesting thing. I hope it works. I think that plus like the Green New Deal talk makes me think that there's like probably some signs that there's going to be some pretty cool or there's going to be some serious energy when it comes to doing climate change. And I think that could be really cool. I have high hopes for it. We'll see what Earthstrike Day is like. I don't remember the actual day of Earthstrike, but I should look into it. Mad Blender, what is Paten? All right, good question. Terrifying answer. Paten is a French-Canadian thing, a meal that was invented by probably some like Greek restaurateur that I don't remember the name of. But it is French fries with something called brown sauce on it, which is gravy that doesn't have the cornstarch or whatever put into it, so it's not thickened. And it's called brown sauce. But very often outside of Quebec, you're just going to end up with gravy. And then they put cheese curds on that. Because Quebec cheese curds are everywhere. You can buy them in like convenience stores. It's really popular. And there's lots of cheese in Quebec. And so it became a really popular like late night drunk food that would turn into you know, a popular dish, and now it went all over Canada, and it became a Canadian staple, and now like America started to adopt it, so it's becoming like a thing. I'm pretty sure that the Liberals are going to win the election. Yeah, at this point, if the election happened like today, I'd be pretty convinced that Justin Trudeau is going to get narrowly reelected. Yeah, because nobody knows who Andrew Scheer is. It's true. I actually saw last night on TV that there was an ad for Andrew Scheer and the Conservatives. So the ads have already begun. But yeah, nobody in Canada knows who Andrew Scheer is, who's the leader of the Canadian Conservative Party. Nobody who's not like into politics knows who he is. So someday he'll have to actually like be known, but I really highly doubt that he can get a thing together in time. But as I've learned, if 2018 taught me any lesson, is that election campaigns matter. And that, honestly, having expectations on how an election will go before the writ is dropped really has no bearing. There's no, we have no idea how an election will turn out until it's almost election day. There are too many factors and too many random things that can happen. That's what I'm learning. Yeah. What we got next? Where in the political spectrum is pro-environment? It's kind of not on the political spectrum. I would say it's nominally a left-wing thing, because, you know, it's like vaguely a thing that will require using the state to protect natural resources, but like Teddy Roosevelt and like Richard Nixon have shown that you can make a right-wing case for protecting the environment. It's about securing resources and making a sustainable economy. Like, there is ways that you can make a right-wing argument to pass good environmental policy. Climate change denial only really became a like right-wing thing in like the 90s. Like, George Bush Sr. passed like climate change legislation, and he said that like climate change was one of the biggest issues. So like, it's not necessarily not a right-wing thing. It's just that they acquiesce more to the power of capital, and energy companies tend to support right-wing people because they will deregulate them, and that kind of results in not really much stuff going on. Why does your channel attract a decent amount of people into wholeheartedly... Okay, why does your channel attract a decent amount of people who wholeheartedly believe in Russiagate? I saw a socialist in your Discord who was praising Robert Mueller. I don't know. I mean, I'm not like a Intercept type person who thinks that there's nothing going on with Russia. I think there's something going on. I don't think it's going to be as like it's not going to be this like world-shaking event like everyone thinks it's going to be. But honestly, I think that in many ways, Russiagate and the people who are like banking on something really big happening with Russia feels a lot to me like the 9/11 Truth movement when it was first taking off, in that they're movements that exist not for the thing that they think it is. A lot of the 9/11 truthers were more responding to the war on terror and George Bush's presidency, while like Russiagate is more of like supporting a thing that they think will take down Donald Trump as a president. It's a resistance to Donald Trump. It's not really based on like the actual facts of what's happening, because if you look at like the actual facts of the case that have, as they've been shown so far, they're damning, but they're not overwhelmingly condemning. They're kind of more exposing what governments do, like how dirty elections can get. But like, I don't know, like but like I get it, because like Donald Trump really sucks. I think there are some people, maybe not as many as some would like to believe, that who are Democrats that want the Russiagate stuff to be bigger than it is, because then they can find a way for Democrats to get back in power that doesn't involve significantly changing their politics. Because there are a lot of right-wing Democrats who see like the kind of growing idea that their path forward in the Democratic Party is to become more left-wing, and they don't want to do that because they're like, you know, the Democrats are by and large run by like very right-wing people. They don't want to change, but also they want to get back into power, and so they think that Russia is the thing that's going to get people to support them even if they don't agree with their politics anymore. And that's why I think that there's a lot of like energy to like lean on the Russia thing. But also it's the only thing in the news, because it's interesting and weird, and it has a narrative, and it's very dramatic and all that kind of stuff. And so the news is covering it like crazy. And so, yeah, lots of people are getting into it because of that. So there's a lot of factors going on with that. Thoughts on Stefan Molyneux's new documentary on Poland? Isn't that I don't know too much about that documentary. I think that, though, is that the thing that now he went there and now he's like an out and out white nationalist? Like now he's like a complete, like he used to just be like a racist person who sort of played with, like he was still like an anarcho-capitalist or whatever, but like was secretly was like very, very racist, and he was just very, very, like he was super, super duper racist. But now he's like out and out, like just a flat out white nationalist because of that, because of the research he did for that documentary. And like that's a big thing. But like Stefan Molyneux is like desperate to just like make himself relevant or keep himself relevant. So follows to me. Do you think the New People's Party will be the actual political force, or will be the Wild Rose 2.0? I don't even think it'll be the Wild Rose 2.0. I think it's going to have this election. I think nobody's going to win their seat, and then the party's going to be done, and they'll all go back to the Conservatives. I don't really see a lot of people breaking ranks to join this new party for not really much of a reason. But I could be wrong. The narrative, the sort of damp rag leadership of Andrew Scheer, combined with like the newly found enthusiasm for like openly racist policies, might drive more people than I think into the dark clutches of the People's Party and Maxime Bernier. So, yeah, Kelly just sighed. I imagine.
No, I was just breathing. It's confusing because there's a delay.
So
I get confused.
You're listening to the stream.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were just listening to me. All right. Is it because capitalism chooses money, profit and money in their own self-interest over protecting the environment because it doesn't benefit them? Yeah. But the thing is, if you are a capitalist, but you have just sort of a more long-term thinking process, you would still you'd still want to protect the environment because conservative, like there is a conservative argument for environmentalism, and we need to fix the environment before in a timeline that is way faster than making all the conservatives not conservative anymore. So it's definitely a thing we need to work on. All right. How many hate crimes are you expecting this year? More or less than last year? I think it's a growing trend. I'm thinking it'll pick up. But I do think that this is like a controversial take, but I think the alt-right have kind of hit their high watermark in America, at least. So, but hate crimes have nothing to do with the alt-right, or they at least are. They're not contingent on the alt-right growing, so they're just a thing that still happens, because right-wing terrorism did pick up in 2018, and I think it'll pick up again in 2019. Who are you hoping for in 2020 against Trump? I'm hoping that it'll be either Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. I stan Bernie Sanders a little bit more just because he's been a little bit more consistent in his views. Like, Elizabeth Warren did used to be a Republican and does still believe in capitalism, which are like things that I'm not totally on board with. But also, if she clinched the nomination and Bernie Sanders didn't run, it wouldn't be the end of the world to me. So, like, sure, one of those two, and then probably I'm 100% in the bag for Tulsi Gabbard as the best progressive Democratic vice presidential candidate choice. I think that they should tap her because she fits everything that they would need to fit for a thing. That's my best choice. I think that those two people are the only real choice that the Democratic Party has to win. I think that if it's Biden, or if it's like Booker, or if it's like Kamala Harris, I think that Trump will win. So I'm hoping that it will be one of them. Why do conservative economists believe austerity and removing market regulations will fix bad economies? Naomi Klein mentions this a lot, but it never really explains the rationale. It's an idea. So their idea is they believe in something called supply side economics, which is this idea that governments, that like the best way for an economy to function is when the government intervenes the absolute least. They think that the free market is basically the best way for an economy to function, that it is hyper efficient and everything runs perfectly, except that when the government gets intervened, it messes with the system and it messes with the rules, and it causes friction, and it like picks winners and losers in a way that they think in a way that they think hurts the economy. And so their argument is they need to get rid of regulation because it will reduce the government's ability to slow down the economy in their mind. What they don't understand is that that's a complete fantasy, and it always has been. Capitalism has always required extensive intervention by the state to function because it is a system. It is basically a mode of production that is designed on taking wealth from workers and moving it upwards to an aristocratic class of billionaires. That is the only way that capitalism functions. And without the police and without like the state to enforce that and use violence to make sure that wealth keeps getting redistributed upwards, capitalism doesn't function. You didn't, like, even the times that a lot of those people point to, like the Gilded Age, like when America was building all those railroads, all of the billionaires were billionaires because they got massive fat handouts from the government. And so like, it's just, yeah, it's a whole thing. So, but they are very convinced because honestly, this is the consensus in like mainstream economics that is the best way to run an economy. But it has shown demonstrably over and over again that it doesn't actually work that way. But there's a lot of money trying to make people think that it does work that way, and that's why it keeps going. Do you think 50 to 75 years from now the Clinton family will be looked on with disgust? The Clinton family will probably be known for their changing of the Democratic Party after Reagan's election to abandon labor as a key base of support and cuddle up with bankers and finance as a new base of support, because that's like the big change that happened in the new Democrat movement that Bill Clinton was primarily behind, but Hillary Clinton also agreed with and kept up when she was in her own political positions. And so they'll be the ones that say they moved the Democrats to the right and that they were a married couple that had extreme control over the Democratic Party, but they just, you know, it only lasted as long as they were relevant, and then when they stopped being relevant, it kind of moved away, I'm hoping. The Clintons still have a lot of money that they can throw around to mess around with the that they can mess around with things. So they can still they'll still be a factor. They'll probably back whatever the most right-wing Democrat that runs, and they'll probably throw a lot of money behind them. Who at the moment will probably either be Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. I think those are the two most right-wing Democrats who are likely to run. Because what's it called? Joe Biden voted against gay marriage and, you know, voted for the Iraq War and, he voted for some terrible bill that allowed. Oh, he voted to repeal Glass-Steagall. So like he's got not a good past, no matter how memeable he is. And even the Joe Biden memes were kind of memeing him as kind of pathetic, so I don't understand why everyone thinks that they can win on that. Should the Democrats lean more to democratic socialism? Wouldn't that push a lot of liberals into the Republican Party? I don't think so. The Republican Party has become so fanatically right-wing that, and also that a lot of, maybe not democratic socialist prospects, but like a lot of socialist, like even moderately socialist programs, if they were just implemented without socialism as the word that was attached to them, they would be really, really popular. The president who puts in universal health care in America will be considered one of the greatest presidents in American history. These are not unpopular positions. They're just convinced that they are because people in Washington, D.C. and all of their rich friends don't like it. But like you see, like study after study, if you just look at it policy by policy, Americans are way more left-wing than the branding would show, because the Republicans are really good at branding. And Democrats need to up their game. What do you think is the best way to get more Democrats to vote? Fighting voter suppression laws and trying to get out there and get people physically to the polls. That is going to be a difficult thing because America makes it really hard to vote. And so getting people registered, getting people actually to the polling place at the time they need to go, getting people to cover shifts, getting people to vote early, getting people to send in absentee ballots, whatever they need, whatever needs to be done to get them to vote, to just do that. I think that's the biggest one. Because I think that if you just take the raw numbers, there's way more people who would vote for Democrats than Republicans. It's just that the people that would vote for Democrats have had their vote very effectively suppressed in America. And so really just trying to fight those laws, either by changing the laws or by trying to do the extra labor that needs to get done in order to get those people the right to vote, is the best way to do it. Like, that's the reason I want, like, that's one of the many reasons I want, like, an Elizabeth Warren or a Bernie Sanders to be the presidential candidate, and that is their policies are policies that a lot of Americans would want, and they would get so much more support than Democratic think tanks seem to be convinced of. I am reading the chat. I'm just a lot behind because this is all bananas. I've already done a lot of thoughts on Elizabeth Warren running for president. Would you consider Stefan Molyneux a fascist? Yes. He's like almost like the perfect case study of a fascist. I really want Trump to be removed. There's a question about Bolivia and inflation and neoliberalism that I don't have. Unfortunately, I don't really have enough information to answer. Sorry. I really want Trump to be removed in 2020, but I have to ask, what does it mean for us, i.e. left-wingers outside the States, if the U.S. goes fascist? Oh, bad things. When the most powerful nuclear-armed country on Earth is a fascist state, the potential for death and destruction is deadly. 2 children have already died at the U.S. border. Think about how bad the southern border of the United States would be if Trump had complete unilateral control over everything. What's the worst thing the Democrats can do for the presidential in 2020? Basically choose... I think the worst thing would probably Kamala Harris to run to be their candidate. I feel like out of all of the candidates, she'd be, well, maybe not the weakest now because she's come out for healthcare, but probably Joe Biden. Joe Biden would probably be the worst choice that they could make to run for president. The other week, you speculated that Christianity never might have been a thing without Rome. Do you think that things would be easier if LGBTQ people if that was the case? Maybe. I mean, homophobia is not an explicitly Christian thing. It's in a lot of religious traditions, and even existed in Rome to some extent. They were just enforced it less. Even Christians didn't care about it all that much until except in like moments of like cultural anxiety. And I think that like really homophobia would spike up anytime there was any sort of moral panic. And if you want to like learn more about that, there's like a book by what's that guy's name? There's a book on moral panics that really kind of explains that things like crackdowns on gay people are linked to moments of cultural anxiety and fear, and that really there would be like that it's a fairly likely thing to do, or not like, or it's like homophobia would not be like solved if there just wasn't Christianity. It's not that simple. Especially because there is homophobia in pretty much all major religions. And as I said, Rome did it too. Rome had homophobia as well. Tristan, why are you so cynical about politics? Because I don't know. Because I've studied it too much. If you want to be optimistic about politics, don't read anything about it. Don't study its history, and don't ever learn how it actually works. Then you'll be fine. So I'm planning on, because like, what's it called? It's the art of the state trying to decide who leads. It brings out cynical people. It brings out people who want power. It's very often has very little to do with making people's lives better. That's like, if you wanted to make people's lives better and organize the world in a way that was based around hope and optimism and fixing the world's problems, doing it with states and elections is not the right way to do it. It's just like the power plays for positions. Now, I'm not saying that like there's nobody who actually believes. Like, there's several people who believe it, but honestly, just the games that you have to play are so much about power and influence, and then very little to do with like, it's like if say we wanted to hire a chef at a restaurant, and in the interview for the chef position, we got them to see if they could run a 5-minute mile. I mean, you would end up with a lot of very fast chefs at running, but there's no indication that they would have anything to do with cooking. And elections are very much about like, how much money can you raise and power and influence. That's how you get elected. But like so like sometimes you'll end up with like sometimes there are chefs who run. Sometimes you'll get a good chef that just happens to have won the race, but for the most part, you're gonna end up with just a lot of runners who aren't necessarily great cooks. And that is very much how politics works, especially in America, where there's so much more money in the game. So I'm planning on getting involved with city council stuff. Is there a good way to influence socialist policies or to get socialist policies started? My city council is very pro-community, by the way. That's a really great way. Actually, I think that at the city level is probably the best place to get started. I would argue that that's actually, like, just the only advice I would give is don't call them socialist policies. Just call them ideas for things that you would like to do to make the city better. They can be socialist policies, but if you say the word socialist, you're probably going to turn some people off. But just kind of do the thing, because branding is a thing. Do you think wearing a pith helmet is racist? Kind of. It has a bit of a connotation for that, for sure. There's been a lot of people of color who've been dominated and murdered by people wearing pith helmets. Do you believe in the idea that Canadian politics are a couple years behind, from becoming like the U.S. politics? It's not true. What happens in America definitely has huge influence on Canada, and I think that definitely. I definitely think that it's not that clean and simple, but definitely what happens in America will definitely bleed over into Canada. It'll just like how like fascism is coming to Canada now, and that's going to influence our federal election. Dude, Tulsi Gabbard does not deserve a reputation as a progressive, super militaristic, and weird connections to like Indian fascist groups and things. Yeah, she's definitely not in any way. She's definitely not a person I would want to be president. She's a person I would want to be vice president. Because the vice president is very limited in power, but is very good on symbology and advice. And honestly, a vice president is often a person you use to get elected. And Tulsi Gabbard would work a lot for progressive candidates because a lot of the progressive candidates would get criticized for not having foreign policy chops, and Tulsi Gabbard is in the progressive camp, and also is on the Foreign Policy Council, and that's like the main reason I would want her to be vice president, is so that she could help win elections. But yeah, she is fairly hawkish, and has Islamophobic tendencies, and on top of that. She has like a militaristic background, and I think that stuff is problematic and needs to be clamped down. But like that's why I don't really want her to be president, so to say. A lot of the left has a dislike of the police. How do we stop, for example, hate crimes without it? There's a lot of different answers to that. To talk about it, there's ideas of look into. I would say that I can't really tell you like an answer that would be a pithy 30-second answer, but what I can tell you is to go read up on restorative justice and restorative justice movements and police alternative movements, because they do exist, and some are very well thought out that are way smarter than anything I can tell you right now. Does anyone know of any Reddit pages to build towards a solidarity community? I'm hoping somebody answered that, because I don't know any. In an anarcho-communist world, what would happen to communes that disregard the principles of mutual aid and try to enrich themselves, asking too much in exchange for their products? I imagine that they would be very heavily resisted by everybody around them because they're doing the thing. Hopefully there would be a lot of like, what's it called? The best part about an anarcho-communist and all that kind of stuff is that these communes are so deeply interconnected, but also no individual group is that much, like, has much more power than anybody else. And so if one tried to, like, make a power grab and grow out of control, they could just be easily put down. It's like, unlike, like, states where you have, like, one organization that has 100% of all of the power and could unleash untold amounts of destruction on humanity. Like I feel like more smaller organizations with less power would end up in a more sort of peaceful situation, and it would be harder for a power grab. Yeah. If America builds, quote-unquote, the wall, would Canada hire the contractors after to build their own wall to keep out the Americans? I doubt it. I think we would, like, not build a wall just on principle. But also, Canada and America's border is so huge that it would be, like, I don't even know if there's enough concrete on Earth to build a wall like that. I know it's kind of a sarcastic question, but I don't know. I'm goofing around. All right. What do you think would need to happen for Kim Jong-un to become a good person? Abdicate. Abdicate his throne. What should leftists say when centrists say stuff like, too much capitalism gets you Augusto Pinochet, but too much communism gets you Kim Jong-il? That's a weird thing to say. That both of those seem like a case of too much state, but, you know, that's just me. I'd probably argue that, like, can you elaborate on your position? That seems like it's just like a simple witticism, but it doesn't seem like it has any actual backing behind it. Can you explain why that is? Why does too much communism cause Kim Jong-il? Can you explain any of your reasoning? That just sounds like it sounded compelling to you, so you just use it. It's kind of like when people in my history like seminars would say, "Oh, history is written by the victors," and it's like, can you elaborate? Why does that happen? Is it true? Is it always true? And then it turns out it's not really. Whew. Our neighborhood watches a good alternative to the police. They can be. Unfortunately, they're not really trained for a lot of things, but for the most part, having, like, people wandering the streets looking for people who are up to no good doesn't typically do a whole lot. Like, I would even argue if we needed to have police officers that they shouldn't, they're like, the whole, like, going on the beat and looking for trouble is not really a thing that should happen. If they are going to a place, it's because they're being called to a situation. I actually think that, like, the active of, like, I'm an authority who's out here to keep the peace is a problematic aspect, because it is inviting them to look for trouble, and, you know, when you're a hammer, all of your solutions look like nails. And so very often, police going out to the beat means they're going to go to the poor and neighborhoods that have lots of people of color in them and harass people, because if there was no crime going on, but they're still going out and patrolling, they have to show there's, like, that they're doing something. Are those noises cat noises? Yes. There are 2 cats in this apartment. I don't know where they are right now, but yes.
Actually, Tristan, there's empirical evidence that says that neighborhood watches actually are effective.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. There's a pretty cool, I should find it, there's a pretty cool diagram that sort of summarizes a whole lot of studies on what works for recidivism. And
oh, here comes a cat.
That'd be something I could maybe share with your audience at some point, maybe in the Discord, because it's pretty cool.
All right. But not armed, I hope.
No, I don't think armed.
Okay. There we go. We're learning something. We're all learning today. Firefighter. Yeah, exactly. Firefighters don't wander the streets looking for potential fires. Yeah. All right. All right. The cat is headbutting the monitor, so I'll just bring him over here. Hello, everybody. This is Romeo. Yes. Do you have any tips for talking to conservative family members? Yeah. I can get into that. Let me just copy some next question down, and then I'll go into it. This is Romeo. He's the cat who doesn't end up on the stream all that often. So let me just check the camera to see if you guys can actually see him. Oh yeah, you can see him. Do you have any tips for talking to conservative family members? Yes. I think that it has to do with the whole branding thing. Like, I think that in a lot of cases, people have a lot of the same wants and desires. They just are limited in their ability to understand things. Like, they either haven't done the work or they've been propagandized to. And honestly, the best way to talk to conservative family members is to lead with saying that you understand their anxieties. Then go into why their particular solutions are really, really bad. And that could go a couple ways. Sometimes it might end up being a actually productive conversation. That'll be the minority of the time. Most of the time it's going to wind up with them still getting mad, because a lot of conservative ideology is very highly ingrained in things that are not rational. They're ingrained in things like, what the hell's that thing called? Like system justifying beliefs, and like something called like the death thing. What's the thing where if you think about death you become a bad person?
Mortality salience.
Mortality salience, which are basically like, if you are anxious about resources and stuff like that, you become more like xenophobic and tribal. And also, a lot of studies show that, like, conservatives actually enjoy making left-wing people upset. Like, the whole to trigger the libs thing. So, like, in some ways, if you start passing through some of these things, you might end up at an impasse that you really can't get past. But hopefully, you'd be able to convey that why you believe the things you want to believe, and it's up to them to be a rational grown-up and do things. But unfortunately, they are conservatives, so the chances of them being a rational grown-up is rather low. But you can try, and at least you got the moral high ground. At least you tried. Because trust me, the other thing is, like, conservatives don't sit around navel gazing asking how can we talk to liberals and make them understand us. That's not how they think. Whenever, like, there's the whole like how liberals went through like a year of like navel gazing, being like, how can we understand and reach out to the other side? And it's like, do you think that like Bill Bob, who's like a red hat MAGA guy who drives a truck that he modified so it's even more dangerous it does even more damage to the earth, like parks his truck in front of like electric car charging stations and intentionally says racist things because he thinks it's hilarious to trigger the libs. You think he's talking about how do we reach out to the other side? Honestly, there's two ways to go with that. It's like, those people are not winnable. And honestly, there's more, if you get down to brass tacks, there's more of us than there are of them. And really, you don't need to win their hearts and minds over, because it's not going to happen. What you need to do is get the people who do agree with you more political power. Yeah, these are people who, like, destroyed their own Keurig machines after they purchased them because they got mad at Keurig, the company. Like, there's only so far you can talk to people. There's only so far that, like, one singular conversation with somebody can change someone's minds. There's some data that shows that it takes upwards of, like, 100 interactions to actually change someone's mind. And it would be really cool if you were, you know, number 100, but more likely you're going to be, like, in the middle somewhere. And so your chances of changing people's minds are actually quite low, especially on the internet. One What were you referring to when you told me Warren has a problematic history in regards to claiming Native American ancestry? I thought it was about the DNA thing, but you said it wasn't. Yeah, it's not. Elizabeth Warren has, through one, she went to school with, like, what's it called, through Native American affirmative action, which is problematic because she really doesn't have that much claim to Native American ancestry. On top of that, with no, like, her Native American ancestry basically goes back to, like, a lot of Americans who say that there's one Cherokee person in our family, we have Native American ancestry, when, like, one, that comes from a white colonial mindset about what ancestry is. A lot of indigenous groups see ancestry and belonging as a thing about kinship and kinship groups, and not about what is called blood quantum. That is very much a European idea that, like, you're Native American because your blood says you are. Like, that's such a white European thing to think. While, like, indigenous people see it as, like, okay, who's your mother? Is your mother part of our tribe? If your mother's part of our tribe, then you have kinship links to our tribe. And that's how they see indigenous ancestry. And in some ways, claiming indigenous ancestry and being able to benefit from, like, the sort of programs put in place to address oppression against them, but then never actually living through that oppression yourself, is problematic. And that is something Elizabeth Warren did, like, to the extent where she even had, like, discussions about this indigenous ancestry in this, like, family recipe book and stuff like that. Now, it's problematic, but also she's, like, 69 years old, and also this is a thing that a lot of Americans do, so she's, like, hardly alone in this. And honestly, Americans are, like, way far behind when discussions about indigenous identity and indigenous culture, that, like, I know it's a thing I'm hypersensitive about because I'm Canadian, and it's, like, it's a thing we think about a lot more here. But, like, I don't know, like, I think that there's problematic stuff there, and I think that talking about it more as an invitation for discussion about indigeneity and using DNA tests to claim race is even claiming to belong to a race when nothing in your material experience and nothing in your material experience speaks to that is has problematic aspects to it in my mind. Hey, Chrisiosity. You guys should check out Chrisiosity's channel. She's good at making YouTube videos. Yeah, I think that, like, race is, like, we don't understand it as well as we think we do, and it's a murky area that a lot of Americans, including Elizabeth Warren, have misappropriated for certain things. And so that's why I said that Elizabeth Warren has a problematic history when it comes to her indigenous ancestry. What would you say to a family member who spent their working life as a police officer, i.e. without telling them that they wasted their life reinforcing authoritarian power structures? If you need to talk to them about that, I mean, police officers are very defensive and very fragile people that are, like, freak out over the smallest criticism, so maybe it's just best to just not bring up the subject. Sure, whatever. You know, you're fine. All right. Comrade Ace is here. All right, you've been working on theater performance? That's awesome. That's great. Last we talked, you broke your toe and your, like, girlfriend broke up with you. Like, you were having a rough time. But if you've been busy doing theater, hopefully you're having a good time. Hopefully, like, you know, you're on the mend. Hopefully your broken bone has healed well if you're doing theater. And also, how did that genetic material end up in your family? Was it consensual? Yeah. It's a good question. Um, E and B also has some pretty good discussions about how to do about the police stuff. So, yeah, E and B, it seems like they're talking about some stuff. All right. Let me get to a couple things that I want to talk about. We've got half an hour left in the stream, so I'm going to put a pause on taking new questions for a bit, and I'm going to talk about some stuff about Step Back in 2018. Should just let people on our diversity list. Okay. All right, so I want to talk about the top 10 Step Back videos of 2018. It's been quite a year. Did you know that a year ago people were still touching spaghetti and you know, Ugandan knuckles and was a thing, and Logan Paul had just done his Suicide Forest video, and what was the other meme that was really around? Oh, Tide Pods. People were eating Tide Pods. So like that's, you know, that was a year ago. And in 2018, I've made a whole bunch of videos. I've got my top 10 list here. We could talk about them. Each of them I'm pretty excited about. So, first one I got, number 10, I did my video on the Druids, which I was really surprised. That video did not have a good first impression. When it first came out, it actually didn't do very well, but then the algorithm gods picked it up and it went, did a lot better, and it makes me think that I should do a second look at the Know Your Fantasy series and maybe try to rehabilitate it in some way if I just think about it in a new way. Number 9. Oh yeah, and what is a Druid now has sitting at 12,135 views. Number 9 is A Brief History of Quebec. That's a video that's done real well. It's sitting at 12,608 views. And this kind of shows me that like the brief history, A Brief History of Quebec and A Brief History of Countries seems to do really well. So I'm going to try to do a bit more of those in the future. Number 8 was How Did the Rwandan Genocide Happen?, which is sitting at 13,223 views. And this is another example, I think, that this is like a really dark chapter of history. That is a video I put a lot of work into. It was still one of my weekly videos, but I feel like I put a lot of extra effort into that I really think paid off. And so I think that these serious subjects, although the AIDS crisis video did not do super great, which makes me sad, but I do think that when you take a subject that people know about, or heard of, but not about, and you put effort into it, you can get some really good some stuff out of it. And I do think that the Rwandan genocide video I'm very proud of making. I think that it went down really well. Number 7 was Walt Disney a Nazi, which is sitting at 15,816 views. That is just pure search engine optimization. I just know there's a lot of people who search for Disney stuff, so. Yeah, was Walt Disney a Nazi? I knew that was always going to do well. I'm not super proud of that video. Like, it's okay. I like it. It's just pure search engine. Number 6. This is another video I'm very proud of, and that is What is Scientific Racism? This one is sitting at 16,476 views, and a lot of people have said that this was a pretty important video for their understanding of race as a category and what scientific racism was and sort of the limits of scientific thinking and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was really good. That's a video that I think I need to revisit. Number 5 is Why Is There No American Left-Wing Party? Pure red meat for my base, as everybody in the chat is probably well aware. We just spent a whole lot of time talking about how frustrated we are that America has no real left-wing alternative in their politics. And so I made a video asking, why is that? And it was very provocative because also I had a lot of comments that came in and went like, actually the Democrats are communists, or like, you know, like, what about the Democrats? Aren't they a left-wing party? And so like, it was meant to both be red meat to, you guys, but also challenge those who were going to come into the video to be like, oh, aren't the Democrats the left wing? And then talk about like actual like left wing and like what is the left and what it actually means. And I think that video succeeded on those fronts, and that's why I think it's at number 5 on this list. It's sitting at 19,576 views. Number 4 is Why Does Israel Exist? Another example of doing a history of a country and talking about a subject that gets a lot of news attention and gets a lot of search traffic. And so Why Does Israel Exist is part 1 of a 2-part series. Part 2 did not get a super amount of attention, but the first part did, and I think that it shows. I think the series had a lot of things. I thought it was really good. So, number 3. Why Does Israel Exist has 22,572 views. Number 3 is A Brief History of Germany. Not too surprising, because this was a collaboration with Emperor Tiger Star, but also shows that the history of a country series goes down real well. Although the Sudan video didn't get on this list, the Sudan video also did pretty good. So, but Germany, that one people really liked. So, yeah, it has 30,308 views. Number 2 is A Brief History of Ethiopia, another country that a lot of people don't know much about, so I did a video about it. Did really well. Pretty proud of it. Has 40,825 views. I like it. I think it's a great one. Another one that's an example of like hitting people on a thing that is going on in the cultural zeitgeist that people think about and search for, and that is Why Baby Boomers Don't Get Millennials, which is sitting at a beefy 58,069 views. Nice. And is one of my most successful videos in the channel's history, to show that 2018 was still a year where I did good stuff. It felt like, because I got 2,000 fewer subscribers in 2018 than I did in 2017, that maybe Step Back was like was kind of on the weaker side in 2018, but it shows that I still made some fairly successful videos that are, I think, amongst some of people's favorites on the channel. So I'm very happy that I'm still doing that stuff. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about 2019 and what I'm going to do with Step Back. First things first, Step Back is continuing. I'm going to on January 10th, I'm going to make my first quick step of 2019. I should be doing a Step Back tonight, that Tuesday. So that will be, gosh, I don't know what day of the week that, or what day that is. Oh, it's the 8th. So there should be a Step Back tonight on the 8th. And so we'll be back in the regular rotation starting that week, the week of the 7th. Then I'm going to be working on future big videos. I have one that I want to put out in January that's going to be a collaboration with The Cynical Historian. It's going to be pretty good. It's a technology history piece. That's something I'm pretty excited about. I'm worried that I have ways that I think I'm going to try to sell it so that it doesn't end up with the woman tax, which I usually end up getting, which is that my videos perform 28% less if they're about women. But I'm going to try to see if I can get around that with this one. And then I have plans to do some more bigger documentaries. As I said, I'm kind of slowing down the main Step Back video process in order to make them a bit better. One of my goals is, if anyone saw, Polygon made a list of the best video essays of 2018, and my goal is to get on one of the best video essays of 2019. So I'm going to try and make some really good documentaries this year. So here's a few things that I'm thinking of making videos about. Let me know, like, these... I cannot guarantee that these are going to come out in 2019, but these are, this is where my mind is like projects that I'm very excited to work on, and I hope will come out in 2019. I want to do a 3-part series where I'm going to expand on the religion series. So now that I'm making these slower, bigger videos, the religion series that I do can now go into bigger religions. And so one of the things I wanted to do is do 3 videos, sort of a trilogy, where I would expand the religion series and go to the Dharmic religions, the India-based religions, and do a Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism trilogy, which I think is going to be really cool. I think that I've danced around those religions, but I do think that one of the criticisms of my channel is that I don't go to India very much, and I think that I need to go to India, and I think I need to do this big trilogy, and so I'm really excited to get on that. I'm thinking of playing around with a series that's kind of like the religion series and kind of like the country brief histories, but is about ideologies. And so like taking the famous religious, the famous like, you know, political isms. See you later, Sir Zhao Zhao. And doing a video explaining what they are, explaining where they come from, explaining the history of them, and all those kinds of things. I don't know where that will start, but you know, that's a thing that I'm thinking about doing. I'm planning on trying to see if I can revisit the Know Your Fantasy series. I already have done a video on Sikhism, Skilla and Droman. It's one of my most popular videos, so you just go look it up. It's one of my most viewed videos, but I already did Sikhism. So Know Your Fantasy was my video where I talked about common tropes in fantasy fiction and talk about the history behind them. I did one on paladins that did well. I did one on druids that did well, but then I also did one on elves that tanked, and I did one on dwarves that tanked. And so I'm going to revisit the format and see where Know Your Fantasy could go in like an interesting way. I see my 2 Tamil Nadu memes now that I'm talking about doing videos in India, so I knew that that was the thing that was going to come up. Will you do a video on Tamil Nadu? I definitely think that if I'm going to do a trilogy of videos on the Indian religions, that I definitely have to have some sort of Tamil Nadu nod meme. Because, of course, you guys are already shown it's an inside meme, so there's that. Opinion on the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. I don't know a ton about them. I know that they're a thing that you can set up in Europa Universalis 4, but that's about it. I'm going to try to see if I can get more countries. Brief histories of countries. I know that you guys really like those, so I'll try to see if I can do more of those. Do gnomes. Gnomes would be fun. Then I'm going to do the... this is a video that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, but I know I have to approach in a very strict and academic fashion that I have to then translate to something interesting, which is I'm going to talk about some atrocities. I'm going to do a video, and I'm going to talk about things like the Red Terror and the Holodomor and sort of the horrors and violent brutality that came out of the Russian Revolution and the regimes of the Soviet Union, especially in the time of Stalin and Lenin. And I know that video because I'm sure that there are like people are going to be like, no, the Holodomor didn't happen, but also it's good that it happened. So like there's a lot of denial, especially in leftist circles, of any sort of discussion of these things. And I'm not going to like do like, you know, I'm not going to do like the Black Book of Communism. Like I'm not going to like, there's already a right-wing discussion about the atrocities done under the Soviet regime. And I really think that we need room for a left-wing discussion of the, a left-wing discussion of the atrocities committed by the Soviet regime that's not meant to be a condemnation of leftism at all. So we're going to talk about starvations, and we're going to talk about political terrorism, and we're going to talk about the mass murders of people for counter-revolutionary action and kangaroo courts and gulags and all that stuff, and see if we can get a good get something productive out of it. And that's something I really want to make. 'Cause yeah. That's my plan, to talk a little bit about that. And also, I have a video on the Paris Commune that I've been working for almost a year now. See, like, we're already getting, like, Comrade Ace is saying, like, it didn't happen, but also it was good that it happened. Like, it's like, Holodomor denial in, like, tanky circles is very similar to, like, Armenian genocide denial, where, like, it's going to be a whole thing. It's going to be a whole thing, and I'm going to get a lot of hell for it, but I definitely think I should make it. No one's going to be happy with me when I make that video. 'Cause, like, if I don't play that correctly, I could sound like Jordan Peterson, which I do not want to do. But also, I definitely think... But also, if I don't say that and then instantly, like, talk about it as if it's, like, a condemnation of all leftist thought, then, like, I'm going to get shit from some other people, too. So it's going to be a whole thing. Yeah. So... and yeah, Paris Commune video is another video we've got planned for 2019. I have some interviews I'm doing for that. Pretty excited. All right. It looks like I'll take maybe a couple more questions, and then I will call it. I'll call it a thing. Does getting offended or upset if someone mistakes me for gay mean my support for the LGBTQ community isn't real or deeply felt? No. Honestly, if someone mistakes you for being gay, like, the context of that means quite a bit. Like, if you're, like, in a gay bar or something and someone mistakes you for being gay, like, that shouldn't surprise anybody. But if it's, like, some sort of homophobic criticism of, like, the way you dress or something like that, then it's, you know, it is right to be offended because they basically were being homophobic even if you're not gay. But, you know, that's the whole thing. I don't know why I keep saying the whole thing. Okay. The opinion of the People's Republic of Lugansk and Donetsk. You are asking the wrong person. All right. Looks like things have kind of slowed down, but I also know there's a lot big latency with this one. Thoughts on Peronism? I don't know anything about Peronism. Okay. I think maybe since I'm in a kind of awkward situation, I will sort of shut this, do this thing down. Please say the word Holodomor in your Holodomor video. Yeah, it's the word, it's the leftist word that we cannot speak its name. And so treat it like at the Voldemort. Oh, that might be fun. Have you done a video on the Armenian genocide? No, but I should. That's another one that'll bring a lot of strange people out of the woodwork to go after me. Genocide. Okay. All right. I think I'm gonna call it a time. You guys have been so great. This is awesome. Please, I mean, I'll do a stream next Tuesday. I guess today is Tuesday, so I guess I'll see you all next week. And stay classy, friends.